Let's get one thing perfectly clear from the very beginning. Saying yes is not a virtue, it's not a strength, and it's certainly not the path to respect or power. It's a weakness, a crack in the armor you wear every day. And the worst part? You already know this. Deep down, in the quiet corners of your mind, you felt it. That uncomfortable sting each time you agreed to something you did, that sense of being trapped, of sacrificing your own will for the sake of others. And yet, you keep doing it. Why? Because you were taught to. From childhood, you were conditioned to believe that saying yes makes you good, that it makes you kind, agreeable, likable. You were told that pleasing others was the path to friendship, to acceptance, to love. But here's the truth no one told you. The more you say yes, the more you give, the more they take, until there is nothing left of you but a shadow of someone who once had boundaries. Think about it. How many times have you agreed to stay late at work even though you were exhausted? How many times have you gone along with plans you hated just to avoid disappointing someone? How many times have you bitten your tongue, smiled and said yes, while something inside you screamed no? And what did it bring you? Did those people admire you for your sacrifice? Did they treat you better? No, they began to expect it. They began to assume your compliance. And each time you reinforced that assumption, you lost a little more ground. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He wrote that virtue without cunning is weakness, and a person who cannot say no is a pawn, not a player. Because in the real world, the world of power, influence, and survival, those who cannot set boundaries are devoured by those who... Every yes you give unwillingly is not an act of kindness. It is an act of surrender. It signals to others that you can be bent, that your will can be shaped by their desires. And once they see this, they will test you. They will push. They will take more. Not because they are evil, but because human nature is opportunistic. Machiavelli knew that. And now so do you. Before you speak, before you agree, before that next yes escapes your lips, ask yourself, am I acting from strength or from fear? Because the moment you act for approval, the moment you say yes to avoid discomfort, you've already given away your power. And the wolves can smell it. You've lived this cycle more times than you care to admit. You've said yes when you didn't want to, when your gut told you not to, when every fiber of your being whispered no. And each time, you convinced yourself it was harmless, that it was the right thing to do, that keeping the peace mattered more than your own comfort. But what did it really cost you? More than you realize, because with every yes you give unwillingly, you're training the people around you, training them to expect your compliance, to treat your boundaries as flexible, to see your time, your energy, your attention as theirs to command. Think about it. The colleague who always asks you to cover their shift because they know you won't refuse, the friend who constantly leans on you for emotional support because you've never set limits, the family member who demands your time because you've never said no, and the partner who grows more and more entitled because your yeses have taught them they can be. It starts small, a favor here, a little compromise there. You tell yourself it's no big deal, but each small yes chips away at your foundation, until one day you wake up and realize that your life is no longer your own. Your calendar is filled with obligations you didn't choose. Your energy is drained by priorities that aren't yours. Your identity is blurred beneath the weight of others' expectations. And here's the cruel irony. The more you give, the less they value you. And when you finally reach your limit, when the resentment boils over and you try to reclaim your boundaries, they act shocked. They accuse you of changing, of being selfish, of being difficult. But the truth is, you betrayed yourself long before, with every yes that came from fear instead of strength, with every time you silenced your own needs to serve someone else's. Machiavelli would tell you, this is no virtue, it is weakness masquerading as goodness. And it is a weakness that predators recognize instantly. Because in every social group, in every organization, in every relationship, there are those who test for compliance, who push against boundaries to see who will bend. And when they find someone who says yes too easily, they mark them as a target, not always maliciously, often unconsciously. Because human nature seeks the path of least resistance, And the agreeable person, the one who always says yes, becomes that path. It's not about whether others are good or bad. It's about incentives. And when you make yourself an easy mark, the world takes advantage. That is the game you are playing, whether you realize it or not. Every interaction, every request, every social exchange, people are reading you, testing you, assessing how far they can push. And each yes teaches them exactly how far. This is why unchecked kindness becomes a trap. Not because kindness itself is wrong, but because kindness without boundaries invites exploitation. The world does not change for good intentions. It responds to strength, to clarity, to discernment. And if you lack these, your kindness will not protect you. It will expose you. So the next time you feel that urge to say yes, to keep the peace, to avoid guilt, to be light, ask yourself, am I reinforcing a healthy relationship, or am I teaching them to take me for granted? Because if you do not set the terms of engagement, someone else will. And you may not like the terms they choose. This is not paranoia. It is the nature of human dynamics. Machiavelli understood it. The powerful understand it too. Because if you don't, you will spend your life trapped in a cycle of unwanted obligations, wondering why the world feels so heavy on your shoulders, never realizing that you taught it to be. There is a reason why this pattern repeats itself across time, across cultures, across every human relationship. It's because human nature hasn't changed. And no one understood this better than Niccolo Machiavelli. In his writings, especially in The Prince, he laid bare the brutal mechanics of power and survival. He did not sugarcoat human behavior. He exposed it. And if you read his words with clear eyes, you will see that the world you live in now operates on the same principles he described centuries ago. Machiavelli wrote that the man who seeks to please everyone will please no one. Why? Because in the pursuit of universal approval, you sacrifice authenticity. You sacrifice strength. You become a reflection of others' desires, not a force of your own. He observed that rulers who sought to be loved above all else often lost their thrones, because love is fickle, conditional, dependent on circumstances beyond your control. But fear, respect, these are grounded in perception of strength, of boundaries, of the willingness to say no when it matters. And here is where most people fail. They believe that saying yes will win them affection, loyalty, goodwill. They think that by being endlessly agreeable, they will become indispensable. But Machiavelli would tell you, indispensability is not built on compliance. It is built on control of perception, control of boundaries, control of self. When you say yes too easily, you surrender that control. You teach others that your time is theirs, your energy is theirs, your values are negotiable. And in doing so, you cease to be respected. You become useful. And usefulness without respect is a dangerous place to be, because the useful are used, and when they are no longer needed, they are discarded. Think of the leaders who maintain influence over decades, the mentors, the visionaries, the power players in any field. Are they the ones who say yes to every demand? Are they the ones who bend at every request? No. They are the ones who command presence, who project strength, who understand that selective agreement is far more powerful than universal compliance. Machiavelli understood that image is everything. It is not enough to possess inner strength, you must project it. And nothing erodes that projection, and those who seek power, consciously or unconsciously, will exploit that. They will test you with small requests, seemingly innocent demands. And if you fold, they will escalate. Not because they are inherently malicious, but because human behavior is opportunistic. It follows the path of least resistance, and a person who cannot say a no is the path of least resistance. This is why Machiavelli advised that a ruler must know how to appear strong, even when they are not. Because perception shapes reality. In your life, the same principle applies. If you appear endlessly accommodating, people will treat you as such. If you appear discerning, capable of refusal, they will approach with more respect. The power lies not in being agreeable, but in being unpredictable, in showing that your compliance is a choice, not an obligation. And this begins with mastering the art of saying no, not out of cruelty, not out of spite, but out of strategic clarity, because in a world that tests boundaries constantly, those without them are consumed. Machiavelli would remind you, to survive, to thrive, you must first understand perception is not just part of power, it is power. And this is where so many fall without even realizing it. They believe that by being good, by having the right intentions, by working hard, they will naturally be seen as valuable. But the harsh truth is that the world does not operate on inner truths. It operates on outer perceptions. People treat you not based on who you are, but based on who they believe you are. And what shapes that belief? Your behavior, your boundaries, the signals you send in every interaction. And one of the clearest signals is how easily you say yes. When you say yes to everything, you project neediness. You signal that you crave approval, that you will bend for validation. And in the social hierarchy, that places you at the bottom among the compliant, the easily manipulated, the dispensable. Contrast this with the few who say yes sparingly, who pause before answering, who weigh their responses with care. These individuals project value. They create an air of mystery, of discernment, of self-respect. And as a result, they are treated with greater consideration. Because what is scarce is valued. What is abundant is dismissed. Think about this in your own experience. The person who is always available, always accommodating. How do others treat them? With reverence or with expectation? And the person who sets clear boundaries, who declines when necessary, how do others respond? Often with curiosity, with respect, sometimes with frustration, but never with dismissal. This is the paradox of human dynamics. The more you give unconditionally, the less you are valued, the more others seek your approval. And this is not manipulation, it is human psychology. Machiavelli understood this well. He wrote that rulers must control not only their actions, but the perception of those actions. Because perception governs influence, and in your daily life, the same rule applies. If you want to be respected, to be valued, you must first be seen as someone who values themselves. And that begins with mastering your yes. Every time you say yes too quickly, too eagerly, you reinforce a narrative about yourself, a narrative of pliability, of lack of self-possession. Over time, this narrative takes hold in the minds of those around you, and reversing it becomes increasingly difficult. This is why the discipline of discernment is so critical. Not every request deserves your agreement. Not every invitation merits your presence. Not every demand warrants your compliance. The more you cultivate the ability to say no, or to delay, or to withhold entirely, the stronger your perceived value becomes. Because in a world overflowing with noise, with people desperate to please, scarcity of agreement becomes a signal of power. It tells others, I choose where my time goes. I choose who I invest in. I am not here to be consumed. I am here to command. And this shift in perception transforms interactions. People become more measured in their requests. They approach you with greater respect. They weigh their words more carefully. Because they know your yes carries weight. It is not given lightly, and that weight is what creates leverage. Leverage that cannot be bought, only cultivated through disciplined action. Machiavelli would remind you, in the arena of power, what others see is often more important than what is true. And in mastering your perception, in mastering your yes, you take the first step toward becoming not just another player, but one who controls the board. Scarcity creates value. It always has. It always will. And nowhere is this more true than in human relationships. The more available you are, the more people take you for granted. The more accessible you make yourself, the less weight your presence carries. This is the brutal, unspoken law of social dynamics. And those who fail to understand it condemn themselves to a life of invisibility. Think about this. When was the last time you truly valued something that was always within reach? The colleague who says yes to every request, the friend who is always there no matter the hour, the partner who never withholds, who never challenges. At first you appreciate them, but slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to expect them. Their constant presence shifts from gift to obligation, and once expectation takes root, gratitude withers, respect fades, Entitlement grows. Now contrast this with those who are selective, those whose time is scarce, whose attention feels earned. Their presence commands attention because it is not guaranteed. Their yes matters because it is not automatic. This is the power of scarcity, and it applies not just to presence, but to words, to energy, to access. The person who speaks constantly is tuned out. The one who speaks with purpose is heard. The person who is always emotionally available becomes a crutch. The one who guards their emotional energy is respected. Machiavelli understood this dynamic with piercing clarity. He advised rulers to maintain a certain distance from their subjects, not out of arrogance, but out of strategy. Excessive familiarity breeds contempt. Scarceness breeds desire, and this principle applies to you. If you want your yes to matter, you must first make it scarce. You must train yourself to pause, to assess, to recognize that every yes diminishes your reserve of power, and that reserve must be guarded. This is where the art of strategic silence becomes invaluable. Silence unsettles people. It forces them to sit with uncertainty, and in a world addicted to immediacy, uncertainty creates power. When you do not rush to fill the void with agreement, others lean in. They wonder what you are thinking. They recalibrate their approach. Because unpredictability commands respect. Predictability invites exploitation. Every time you reflexively say yes, you reveal yourself. You show your hand. But when you cultivate the ability to hold space, to remain silent, to let others speak first, you shift the dynamic. You move from reactive to proactive, from follower to leader. And this does not mean becoming cold or distant. It means becoming intentional, discerning. It means understanding that your time, your energy, your agreement are currencies, not obligations. And like any currency, their value depends on scarcity. Machiavelli would remind you, the prince who is too accessible invites insurrection. The individual who is too compliant invites exploitation. But the one who knows when to appear and when to disappear controls the tempo of the game. In your life, this means mastering the rhythm of engagement, knowing when to lean in and when to withdraw, when to speak and when to let silence speak for you. Because in the space of silence, in the space of scarcity, your value is forged. And those who master this art find that the world begins to treat them differently, not because they have changed who they are, but because they have changed what they project. And perception, as you now understand, is everything. Emotional control is not just a personal virtue. It is a weapon, a shield, a currency of power in every human interaction. The person who cannot control their emotions cannot control outcomes. And those who seek power, those who understand the dynamics of influence, know this well. They watch, they test, they provoke, not always with malice, but with purpose. Because if they can make you react, they can make you predictable. And what is predictable is easy to manipulate. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone lose control in a negotiation, in an argument, in a tense moment, and instantly lose leverage? The moment anger erupts, clarity vanishes. The moment fear shows, positioning weakens. The moment desperation seeps into your words, your opponent knows they have you. This is why Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must be both lion and fox. Strong when necessary, cunning always, and cunning requires restraint. The ability to feel, but not be ruled by feelings. In your life, this is a skill that separates those who are controlled from those who control. The person who maintains composure when others unravel commands attention. They unsettle those who expect an easy reaction, because silence in the face of provocation is unnerving. Calm amidst chaos is powerful, and patience, true patience, is the ultimate expression of this control. We live in a culture of urgency, of instant gratification, of reactive behavior. But the strategist knows that timing is everything, that moving first is not always the path to victory. Sometimes the greatest power lies in waiting, in observing, in letting others reveal themselves first. Think of a chess master. They do not rush. They calculate. They lure. They watch for the perfect moment to strike, and when they do, the move is decisive. You must adopt the same mindset. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every insult requires response. Not every opportunity must be seized immediately. Those who chase every impulse exhaust themselves. Those who wait, who choose their moments with precision, conserve power, and strike with impact. This is the essence of strategic patience, and it is built on emotional control, because patience is impossible when driven by fear or ego. It requires discipline, the willingness to endure discomfort without losing composure, the ability to sit with uncertainty without grasping for premature resolution. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He observed that fortune favors those who know how to adapt, how to bide their time, how to exploit opportunity when it arises, not those who act out of compulsion. In your world, this means learning to pause, to listen, to assess the true dynamics of a situation before moving. It means recognizing that the person who speaks first often gives away the most information, that the one who reacts first often reveals their weakness, and that the one who can wait, who can hold tension without breaking, often dictates the terms of engagement. So the next time you feel the urge to react, to explain, to prove yourself, pause. Breathe. Ask, is this response driven by strength or by insecurity? Because every moment of restraint, every act of patience builds your presence. It signals control. And control commands respect. Machiavelli would remind you, the ruler who can master and the individual who is ruled by emotion will always be ruled by those who are not. In mastering emotional control and strategic patience, you elevate yourself above the reactive masses. You become a force others cannot easily read, cannot easily provoke, cannot easily defeat. And that is where true power begins. Now you understand. You see the pattern for what it is. You've been taught to say yes, to comply, to please, believing that it would bring you respect, loyalty, love. But it hasn't. It never will. Because in a world driven by perception and power, blind agreement is not a virtue. It is a liability. And those who understand this, those who master their yes, move through life on a different level. They are not controlled by the expectations of others. They shape those expectations. They do not react impulsively. They choose their... Because the truth is this: every interaction, every request, every invitation is a test of your boundaries, a test of your values, a test of your self-possession. And each yes you give unwillingly erodes the image you project, weakens your position, and signals to the world that you can be bent. But each no delivered with calm certainty strengthens your presence, builds your value, and reshapes how others see and treat you. This is not about cruelty. It is not about becoming cold or manipulative. It is about reclaiming ownership of your choices, about moving through the world with eyes wide open, understanding the dynamics at play, and choosing to operate from a place of power rather than compliance. Machiavelli did not write to teach evil. He wrote to illuminate reality, to prepare those willing to see, to arm them with the tools to survive, and to thrive in a world that rewards the strategic, not the naive. And now you are armed with this knowledge. The only question is, will you use it? Because knowledge without action changes nothing. Insight without discipline leaves you trapped in old patterns. But small shifts practiced consistently create transformation. The next time you feel the reflex to say, yes, pause, ask, is this yes aligned with my values, my priorities, my long-term positioning, or is it driven by fear, by guilt, by the need to be liked? The more you practice this pause, the more you will find your interactions changing. People will sense it. They will adjust. They will approach you with greater care, with greater respect, because they know your yes carries weight. And in time, you will notice something remarkable. Your life will begin to align more with your true desires, with your chosen path, rather than being shaped by the whims of others. This is the power of mastering your yes, of mastering perception, of mastering yourself. So I ask you now, are you ready to begin? Are you ready to stop living for the approval of others and start living with intentional power? If you are, leave this in the comments. Power begins with no. Because this is just the beginning. Together we will continue to explore the strategies that elevate, that empower, that transform. You are not here to be used. You are not here to be bent by the expectations of others. You are here to choose, to act, to lead. And it all begins with a single word: no.